Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my podcast, Blessed and Beautiful. I'm your host, Peyton Griffiths, and today we have Tamara Martin joining us on the podcast.
What's up, Peyton?
Not much. How are you today?
Very good. Very tired. We did a lot of busy things today. It was fun.
So, y'all are going to be watching this next week, but the week that we're filming this on, this is National Infertility Week.
Yes, National Infertility Awareness Week. So me and some of the girls from Arrows in the Sky Ministry stepped out, went and visited with some of our community fertility clinics, and just had a great time providing some treats for them, some little gifts, some trinkets. Honestly, just really some kind words just to say thanks for the work that they do. So, yeah.
Okay, so do you want to start with introducing yourself?
Sure, I guess. So I'm Tamara Martin, and I am the executive director and co-founder of Arrows in the Sky. So we are a local to Knoxville nonprofit, but our reach is really just nationwide. And we serve families that are walking through pregnancy loss, infant loss, pregnancy after loss, infertility, and then pregnancy after infertility. And we have recently been toying with the idea of moms and dads that are struggling with kids with a medical crisis, especially like infants, I guess. So like NICU stays and things like that. So we'll see. We're kind of not, our motto is like, we don't limit God. So wherever he sends us to is kind of where we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a NICU baby, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was in the NICU for like 114 days.
Holy guacamole. Okay. So your mom gets it.
Oh, yeah. I was born 13 weeks early.
Oh, geez. Okay. So, see, that's the thing. Like, we as a ministry team often get these like messages, and it's almost like, I feel like it's like a tornado watch, tornado warning. You know, they say if you have a warning, like the taco ingredients are there, the warning's happening. And it feels like we get these messages and they'll be like, hey, there's this family, they had a baby at 25 weeks. Can you guys be praying for them? And like our team is like red alert. Like we are praying diligently and honestly praying that they never know who we are. We don't want them to know who Arrows in the Sky is, because in that instance, it's because of the loss of their child. But then again, it's like you've also had these team of people, you know, in community praying for your child and you didn't even know it, which is fine. They don't need to know our names. But also, like, wouldn't that be really special to know that, like, there were people praying for you? And so that's kind of how we got into this situation, I would say, of reaching to people that are, or families that are, you know, encountering like NICU stays and stuff like that.
Because those can be like long. Like
exactly.
mine was long.
And even if they're not long, even if they're a week, there is no amount of time that separation doesn't feel overcoming. You know, the second that I lost my child, the moment I lost my child, the day that they said there was no heartbeat, that was already long enough. So I feel like a NICU stay is so similar. You know, you have this child in there, maybe in an incubator, and you can't hold them, or there's tubes coming out of their bodies. Like, there's all these scenarios that a parent, when you have a child, you don't envision that.
And also, mom had another child when I was in the NICU. She's like, I still have to take care of this child. And then she's like, we also still have to work, because there was a ton of like medical bills and stuff.
Exactly. And she has to function in society all the while her heart and her mind are way elsewhere. So I think that's kind of where we're headed towards adding that in. But
I think that would be very good for the community.
I think it would be awesome, right? I sometimes I sit back and I'm like, God, where is the money coming from this? Because you keep bringing on more. But also, I know he's capable, so we just kind of sit back and let him do it. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of how did the Arrows in the Sky ministry start for you?
So it actually started in like 2021. So obviously COVID hit 2020. And Alex and I had lived here. It was going on like 8 months, 10 months. We moved here back from, he's from here, but we moved from Nashville area. And we kind of had settled. We got involved in our church and loved our church and our community and the friends that we started building here. And we, built a house, and like we had the jobs that we thought we wanted. We were finally close to family. So we said, all right, like, let's start trying for a baby. That's what we want. That's the next step. So we got pregnant shortly after, which was honestly not something I was expecting. I kind of think I expected it to take longer, but it happened, and we were very excited, and we started doing all the planning. You know me, and I love parties. So I was already Pinteresting gender reveals and nurseries and due dates and names and all the things. And we told our family at Thanksgiving. It was really special. That was like the first grandbaby on both sides. Okay. So it was a big deal. And we went to our first doctor's appointment. And I had found out really early, like 5 weeks, which is very early. I know like you're young, but like that's early to find out. And the doctors were like, hey, like something, your dates are off maybe. And I'm like, well, if my dates were off, like then I wasn't even pregnant based off of what you're saying. So we kind of knew like something wasn't probably right. So we went back. They had us wait 2 weeks, which was like the longest.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And we went back, and they let us know that like the baby had stopped growing and there was no heartbeat any longer, and that I had experienced what was like it's called a miscarriage, which just means your body doesn't recognize that your baby's no longer alive. And I was devastated. I went from quickly finding out I was pregnant to telling our whole family, dreaming of their future, thinking of everything, the nursery. We were going that day to pick up a crib after our appointment. Like it was a big deal, you know? And went from that to like the floor had been taken out from under me. And I didn't want to get out of bed, very depressed, found myself like questioning God, questioning what his purpose was. But there was one thing that happened when we were walking through our miscarriage, and I remember sitting in our bathroom with Alex, my husband, and I could feel like God speaking to me and being like, you surrendered your life to me when you were 16. And I remember thinking, yeah, but not for this. Yeah. I was like, I told you I would go to Africa. I never agreed to losing my child. Like that was never, we never had that talk. You know, I didn't sign that contract. And that felt like a fine print that I forgot to read. And it was very much clear to me that he was like, no, but I've called you to this. And I didn't know what that meant. And I took a few weeks of, you know, very emotional, like praying, asking God to allow me to see like my baby's face in my dreams. Like it was very emotional. And then I got a book from a friend, and she sent me this book called like Love Baby. And it's actually an author from this area. And I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, people need this. People need this hope. And so like I made a meeting with Pastor Philip, and I walked into his office, and I don't even think I said anything before I had started like literally bawling my eyes out. And I was like, Pastor Philip, like people need this. There are families that need to understand the hope that comes with, you know, Jesus, and the knowing that like there is a heaven waiting for us. I think we saw multiple families, you know, in our community, in our church, that walked through loss within that short time frame between my loss and like the meeting with Pastor Philip. And that was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like what? It felt like an epidemic. I mean, we were already in an epidemic, you know, at the end of COVID, but it felt like something bigger was happening. So sorry, that was the long-winded answer.
Y'all were like in the middle of the epidemic, and you felt like you needed to start this.
Yeah, it just felt like people needed this. And I didn't know what this meant, like honestly, because I just was like, I didn't know of another church that had a ministry like this. I'd been in church all my life and could have never told you one church that had something that reached to people that lost their children. And that was like, it was almost like eye-opening to me in that moment. Like, how have we not been serving these families?
Yes.
And so he said, absolutely yes. And he began to read that book, and we met again, and he was like, I couldn't finish it. Like it was too emotional, too gut wrenching. You know, our pastor has triplets, and when they were pregnant with their triplets, they thought, I think like maybe one of them wasn't going to make it. I can't remember the exact details, but it was like a very emotional time for him. And I think it took him back to that.
Oh yeah.
And so we could go back to that NICU, right? Like we're praying they don't ever encounter us. And we started, he was like, yes, like I want to do this. I want to do it right. And we started and had like a very close knit ministry team that we sat down and said, what does this look like? What's our name? Like, what do we stand for? What are we doing here? And we just knew we wanted to like share hope to these people. And that was on like a Wednesday night before church. We sat around the conference room in the old church building. And on Friday, we got a call that a family in our community had a loss at 12 weeks, and that the year prior they had lost a baby at 40 weeks, which is full term. And so I think in that exact moment, like I was like, oh, okay, like you've really called us to this. Like this isn't a joke anymore. Like you've actually called us to do this.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started, and it's just gone on from there.
And it's shocking that there's so many churches, just like in Tennessee, and there's so many churches everywhere. But the first one that had ever like done something for pregnancy loss and miscarriage and stuff was Arrows in the Sky. It's the first one that I've ever like seen.
Right. And there's others out there. There are others out there, but like there's not one in every church.
Yeah. And like
there's not one in every town.
I know. Like when we came to the Grove, I was like, what is this Arrows in the Sky thing
right.
that Pastor Phillips up there talking about? And then like you came on there one day, you came on stage and you're like talking about it. I was like, I don't think I've ever heard of a ministry that has been like this, that ever had anything like this, like in any other churches.
No, never. And like I felt like we were very honest in how we all felt about like, you know, a baby's life was so precious. You know, life is so precious. And then it was like loss happens and you just like move on. Yeah. And that just, it didn't sit right with me. Yeah. And I think it didn't sit right with a lot of us. And that's kind of how we resonated. And so many since then have been like, you know, the first, I think, event we did at our church before we kind of stepped out. Obviously, we're a nonprofit now, but we really started within our church and then started branching out.
Yes.
And I remember it was like Mother's Day, the first ever thing we did, and we all like we passed out candles, and it was like when women came in, it was like grab a candle if you've lost a baby, and Pastor Philip talked about it on stage, and like they turned the lights down, and like all of a sudden like these candles started illuminating the sanctuary in the very pitch black darkness, and you could hear just like weeping. And after the service, like we had women come up to us that were like, I lost a baby like 30 years ago. I'm 30. I'll be 33 this year. So they lost a baby that would have been like my age. And this was the first time they'd ever talked about it. And that just was like, I don't know. I think that felt real. It felt raw. And I think our church is really good about keeping it real.
Yeah.
And so it felt like, I think God knew that like we wouldn't be afraid of that. We wouldn't be afraid of the rawness that comes with this.
Yeah. Like
and
the honesty and stuff.
Yeah. And just how genuine it felt to like really expose that part of you, that wound. Yeah.
I would have been like shocked if I saw that many candles lit.
It was.
And it would have been very eye-opening too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the statistics behind it, you know, like that is my background in statistics. That's what I do on my daily job. And it's like, I didn't think I would be a part of the statistic. You know, you hear them like 1 in 4. I mean, that's crazy to think that 1 in 4 people, you'll look at your friend group. I know you're still young, but like you'll look at a friend group, and out of 4 of your friends, like 1 of you is probably going to experience the loss of your baby.
And you never think it's going to be you.
No, never. Or infertility is 1 in 6. So add 2 more of your friends, and 1 of those friends are going to have struggles to get pregnant. You know, put in 160. I don't know how many is in your class at school, but probably 160 at least, I would say, right? Like in your grade level.
That is
1 in 160 1 in 160 couples will experience infant loss. Like that's shocking, right? Like the numbers are high. And so for the numbers to like be that high, it didn't make sense that we weren't already ministering to these families. So
yeah, when like you saw those like candles and of all those people who have like lost a baby, were you like kind of like, this is why I started it, because of like all these people out here?
I think so. I think it was very much like God opening like the door. Like he wanted to show people that though this world has fallen, like there was still hope, you know, and like I'm 32, will be 33, and I never sang the songs about heaven thinking, wow, I can't wait to go there. It was like, okay, I'm not trying to go there soon. Like, I'm not old.
Yeah.
Like I told you, we grew up in like a traditional church. So like singing about heaven was like a very regular thing.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'll go there one day. Not today.
Yeah, like I'll be 80, 85, 90, not 95, 100, not now. And when I think I walked through like the loss of a child, I was like, oh, okay, heaven's like way sweeter now.
Yeah.
And there's like so much more meaning behind heaven. And like to think that my child did not wake up to a fallen world, a broken world where I don't know how their life would turn out or who they would encounter or the hurt that they would experience. Like they just opened their eyes and there was the face of Jesus. And like that was so sweet.
Yeah.
And so I think the families that walk through these, like whether it be infertility or infant loss or, pregnancy loss, like I hope that we can provide that kind of light to them.
And that like hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've kind of already talked about it because you kind of started Arrows in the Sky, but what is your role? Because you do a lot in Arrows in the Sky.
I don't even know anymore. My official title is executive director, but honestly, like now that we're a nonprofit, it's a little different because I used to be very hands-on and like sending out packages to families because that's like we have what's called Hope in Hands, and it's these care packages that we send to families, and they show up at their door unexpected, and they have all this like material and like these beautiful like keepsakes and very thoughtful like card written by our team. We send that to both the mom and dad. So like I used to be very hands-on in that. Now that we're a nonprofit, it's more like I like write grants. I like try and get us connected with people out in the community, like hospitals, setting up meetings, having conversations like that. So it's definitely shifted.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid to do that, and I know that like God wants to grow this, and like we continue to see the growth He has for us. So we just all kind of pick up where we left off. I mean, whatever's needed is what I'm doing.
Yeah, because do you think you do more like the business-y stuff now?
Probably, yeah.
Because I know that on the TikTok, you have a lot more people like putting together the care packages, like Madison and like Rachel.
There's 15 members on our ministry team, so I handle more like administrative and then like social media, and they're gonna handle like
the care packages, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so how has your relationship with God grown since you started Arrows in the Sky?
Oh gosh, well, I think it was like very surface level before, even though like I had been saved since I was 16, and like I did have a relationship with Him. It was so different after, like it very much shifted, and not in the like, if I get close to you, you'll give me a baby, the baby that I desire. It was more like, I need to understand more about your character and who you are so that I'm not angry with you.
Yeah. And
so my best friend and I started a Bible study, and it was literally just walking through the Bible. Like it wasn't help me grow as a woman. It wasn't help me be a better wife, help me be a better mother, it wasn't a help me guide. It was a literally, I want to know God's character. And so we started doing that and studying that. And that helped me just to, I think, to get a different perspective on why I'm here, and that there was a purpose for the pain that we went through. And it made things make sense, if that makes sense to say that. Yeah.
Just getting in the Word more help you, and like knowing God's character and how He works and why He does things that He does.
Yeah, absolutely. It just felt it felt like I went from a surface level relationship to like, this is real. This is deep. So yeah, it was obviously the hardest thing I've ever walked through, but also I know that life here is so short. And so I think about the lives that will be changed because of Arrows in the Sky, at least I hope. And I know that I will have like an eternity with my child in heaven. I know that they will never experience hurt. Because of that, I have to be thankful for the pain that we went through.
Yeah. Okay, so we've already kind of talked about this. We talked about a lot of these, but okay, so I know that Arrows in the Sky helps a lot in the church and the community.
Yeah.
I know they do care packages, but is there anything else that they do? I mean, obviously they do a lot. But.
No, yeah. So we are we send care packages nationwide and to Canada, and then within our like local community, we have what's called a Wave of Light every year. We call it a Celebration of Life Wave of Light. That's like a mouthful to say. But basically, we want to celebrate the lives that were gone too early, and we have like a open invitation to our local community, and we invite them in. We feed them. We have speakers. Sometimes we do gifts. Like it just depends on the year. We've done 5 now, and it's just an opportunity for honestly them to heal, for them to remember their babies. You know, some of the people. Maybe they had an infant loss, or maybe they had like a stillbirth, and so they did have a small funeral. But some of these families, 12 weeks, you may or may not have anything to take home, depending on how that situation, unfolded at the hospital. So we want to give them an opportunity to honor that life. You know, families get kindergarten graduations, preschool graduations, they get middle school proms or whatever they call it now, homecomings, and they get first days of high school and graduation and off to college and weddings, and they get all these events to celebrate their babies. And like you don't get that.
Yeah, they don't.
It just stops. Yeah. So we wanted to have like a really beautiful night that they could do that. Whether that means they come back from year to year, which I hope that is what happens, or it means that the people that walk through loss that year gets it. But it's in October. I think October the 15th is like the official day for the Wave of Light, but we do it like the first, I want to say Friday in October every year. And so we do that, and then like obviously we have fundraising events throughout the year. And then we have like a virtual support group for families walking through infertility or pregnancy or infant loss. We also have some like resources that we connect them with. Sometimes a mom might reach out and say, we're at labor and delivery and we had a stillbirth, and we don't know a funeral home to contact. Can you connect us? Or we need a photographer. We just try to, connect them with some resources. So, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of, we've talked about a lot of these. Okay, so how did you respond to your calling to ministry?
At first, I was upset. Like I said, I was upset. I was very much like, I did not agree to this when I told you I would surrender my life. But I think now I've realized like this is where he's called me to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still am like you ever get that sense of like it's almost like a speed limit. Like, yeah, you could break it, but like you're going to be in trouble. So you might as well just be obedient by it. And so I feel that way. It's like, yeah, I could step outside of this calling. Sure. I could find something else to do, but it's like, why would I not just want to be obedient to what he has put before me?
Yeah. In the episode with Tyler, he talked about someone had told him, if you can do anything but ministry, do it. And at first he was mad. He was like, wait, so you want me to do anything but ministry? He's like, am I a bad preacher or whatever?
Yeah.
And so Tyler explained it in a way, and he's like, so like I kind of took a break from ministry, and he's like, but at the time I was working like somewhere else, and all I could think about was ministry.
Yeah.
And that's when I was where I needed to be. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that I have a full-time job, but I can tell you that when I'm off work, Jamie and I are having conversations. Alex and I are having conversations. The ministry team and I are having conversations. Like, we're constantly trying to improve what we're doing, because we know that Arrows in the Sky is the brand they see on the front, right? Like that's the brand.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, we are just the hands and feet of Jesus, and so whatever we put out there is what's reflecting back to him. And so we're always like looking to improve, and so it is something that we focus on a lot, like Tyler said.
Yeah, because when he first said that, I was confused too. I was like, did they not want you to do ministry?
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, so What would you tell somebody who is being called to ministry?
I mean, I think it's a very serious thing you need to consider, but at the same time, it's not in the do you consider whether or not you do it, because I think the obedient thing to do is to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you have to go into it with a heart of like, whatever you call me to.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'll say yes.
Yeah. And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary to say that. And you have no idea that, like, I was like, I'll be a Sunday school teacher. Call me to that, Lord. That's fun. Call me to be, a pastor's wife. If
Yeah.
that's also hard. Like, I think that job's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, don't call me to the loss of my child. That's
Yeah.
not fair. Yeah. And so I think if it's all fun and games until, like, the calling is real and he's like, get on a plane and fly to Africa, to a country where you don't know anyone, to a community where you have no one, to a people that don't understand what you're there for. I mean, like, it's all beautiful and rainbows until you're obedient,
Mm-hmm.
that you just have to be, right? Like, you have to just walk out in faith. Like, I think about, whenever Peter walked across water, did he step out thinking he was going to fall? Because if he did, then he wasn't going to, ultimately walk across that water. It was the faith of like, I'm going to just be obedient what you call me to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to be obedient because I have faith that whatever obstacle, which was the ocean that you put in front of me, like, it's not going to stop me from getting to where you call me to be. So
yeah, and when you were 16 and surrendered your life to Jesus, you probably did not think that he was going to call you to do this big ministry.
No, I didn't. And honestly, I remember thinking, even when we did Arrows in the Sky from the beginning, it was like probably 3 years ago. Somebody was like, so are you guys like going to be a nonprofit? This is like kind of where you're heading. And I said, absolutely not. We will not do that. I was like, no. And I look back and I'm like, that was about me. Like, I didn't want it to be a nonprofit because I felt like I didn't want to say, I run a nonprofit. Like, I didn't want it to be like, let's make this sound cool. And then I'm like, no, but that's what God wants us to do. So we have the reach, like a bigger reach, not so like we can say we're doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we get to do this, but it's so he can reach those people. Yeah. And so I think every time that you have a question or you feel a calling, like, you just need to reflect that back to him. Reflect back, like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. And we a lot of times just say hands off, God. Like, I will say, shut the door so that we can't walk through it, or open them so wide that we have no choice but to walk through it. And that's how I hope we, take on this ministry and this calling.
Yeah. So did you want to stay small, or did you want it to go like big when you started Arrows in the Sky?
I know that's a Pastor Philip question, I swear. I think we didn't want to limit God. And that was, I think, before, like in the beginning of Loss, I talked about growth. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like, I want to stay small. Like, let's handle the area. Mm-hmm. And then as my spiritual relationship with God, and like I started seeing his character, I was like, why are you putting him in a box? Yeah. He's not a box kind of guy, And so I felt like by me saying, this is exactly what Arrows in the Sky is. This is exactly who we're going to serve. This is exactly what we're going to do. It felt like I was putting God in a box and putting him, like, limiting him from taking this where he wanted to go. Yeah. So that's why I said, like, the NICU thing. Like, we're kind of playing around with it because it's like God, we got, I don't know, like, when we turned into a nonprofit, we started looking for wholesalers, for instance, like cheaper books, cheaper, all these things cheaper, trying to cut the cost. And so I reached out to this publisher, and I was like, hey, we need to order 200 of these books, blah, blah, blah. She was like, okay, that's so great. Like, we have a discount, 65% off. And I was like, holy cow, like, that's crazy. Okay, we'll take it. And so we get the books in the mail, and I forgot she had mentioned, she said, hey, I have this other book. It's a new book. Can I send it to you? And I was like, sure, like, we'll look over it. Yeah. Didn't think anything else about it. Got the package in. And I opened the box, and it was literally a book about moms going through babies in a medical crisis, specifically babies in a NICU. And then 2 days later, I get a call about a baby that's in the NICU. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
That's insane.
Yeah, like I'm like, okay, God, I see you.
Yeah.
And so you better believe like that package ended up in the hands of somebody in Canada whose baby was going in the NICU and who we were praying would never encounter us through a loss. But maybe that's okay. Maybe they don't need to encounter us through a loss. Maybe they just need to encounter us through hope and faith and knowing that like they can be sustained in this, you know, in this circumstance, in this season as well. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about the growth, the big or the small. We kind of just want to be hands off and let God do it.
Yeah, let Him work, and then you just do whatever He wants.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay, so also, can you talk about your fundraisers a little bit? Fundraisers, because you do those a lot.
Yes. So we have a golf tournament this Saturday. Well, you won't air it this week, but yeah. So Infertility Awareness Week is this week. So we're ending Infertility Awareness this week with Teeing Up Hope, which was a fundraiser bringing awareness to infertility. And then we have in July, I can't tell you the exact date. I'm not looking at my calendar. We're doing a casino night, and it's called All In for Hope. I know, high stakes, higher hope, and it's super fun. It's going to be like 20s themed, so think like Great Gatsby, like flapper dresses, like super fun. There'll be like a company that comes in and like has all kinds of different areas that you could play games. It's going to be so much fun. So super fun night out for like parents, adults in our community. And then in September, we have our silent auction. This will be the second year we did it. It was fantastic last year. So many people turned out. We had a great time. And then we kind of end the year with our celebration of life and wave of light. And then throughout the year, we have this Sustaining Hope campaign, which is reoccurring giving. So you could be anywhere from like a friend of the ministry, which is like $10, $25 a month, to how much ever you want to give and be like a legacy sponsor. So that reoccurring giving, we have a goal of like $10,000 for the year. And I think we're somewhere at like 40% of that. So very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all have like a lot of those fundraisers and stuff, and I think
try.
It's important for y'all because y'all have to
send out,
because y'all send out so many of those care packages.
We do. Last week I think we had 14.
Do y'all have like a statistic of how many you send out like in a year?
Yeah, last year we did like 250. Yeah, and this year I think we're thinking. So if we have what we're planning for, it will be somewhere around 250, 300. But we also have had conversations with some like local hospitals, and so I can't give you a number yet. But I told you I just sit back and let God.
Yeah. So do they ask for those care packages, or do you just send them?
Which part?
To the people.
So
do the parents ask for them?
Sometimes it's parents. Sometimes it's like a referral, like, hey, my dog groomer told me in conversation that like they lost a bit. Like it's such an array. Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's a complete stranger. I mean, it literally like God just opens the door and we send it. And that's why we call it Hope in Hands, is because it's unexpected. It's in this like normal like cardboard box, like an Amazon box. And all of a sudden you open it up and like it's literally offering you hope in your hands. Like it's naming your baby and placing this like recognition that like they were alive, they lived, their life mattered. And also it's offering healing to parents because and even siblings. Like it's something that we recently started this year where we send like specific books and literature to kids, because understanding that their brother or sister is in heaven is important. And so we started that I want to say like February, and we've already sent a few packages out with like sibling books. And it's like, hey, whenever you have a desire to like connect with heaven, or like to think about where your baby brother, baby sister is in heaven, like read this book. And it will bring you a little bit closer to where heaven is. So yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. As someone who has siblings, I feel like that would be hard. Like, it would be also hard to understand.
Yes.
Especially if it's like a miscarriage or something, like someone that you've never met too. And then just like your mom tell you, oh, I'm pregnant. And then she's like, I just lost a baby. Like, that would be so hard. So it's good that y'all do those for the siblings.
We want the siblings. We're like, if we can reach them. And we've had conversations like grandparents, like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, we live by this, like, if you see a need, like, fill a need.
Yeah.
And so, like, if God opens the door, then we'll walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just, like, trust that he has a plan in place.
Yeah.
So
that's, you just have to trust his plan.
Yeah.
When I started the podcast, I was like, yeah, this is not gonna happen. Because like I had felt a calling for it for months.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept putting it off. I was like, no.
I was
like, I really don't want to do this. I was like, do you know how many people are gonna be talking about it at school? Like, I go to a huge high school. I'm like, you know how many people are gonna be talking about this?
But also, they could be learning about Jesus.
I know. And like some people, they're like mean about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, as long as you're listening to it, you're learning about Jesus.
Exactly. Go be mean. Who cares? People were crucified him on the cross. Yeah. It's fine.
I just kept like putting it off though, but then I was like, finally, I just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I was just like, I don't know, God, you got this, because I don't right now.
Yes. Good.
I was like, I don't know where this is going, but
I think it's just starting with obedience. I mean, you have no idea where your podcast is going to go and like who's going to be impacted by it. I mean, goodness, 20 years from now, you could be doing this as a full-time podcaster.
I mean, you always have to start somewhere. So.
Exactly.
Like, and people like Sadie Robertson, like, I look up to Sadie Robertson, like, a lot. Like, she's one of my favorite, like, Christian influencers.
Yeah.
I'm like, her podcast, she had to start somewhere, like.
Exactly.
So, it's all about just starting and, like, saying yes to God.
It is. Absolutely. Saying yes to him is so important, because if you don't say yes, he can't follow up with the blessing, and
you won't know, and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, it could, I mean, like, you probably didn't know that when you started Arrows in the Sky that it was going to, like, change your whole life.
No, I certainly didn't.
I mean, did not speaking for you, but did it change your whole life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not something I expected. For months, when we started Arrows in the Sky, like, we had that initial first package the first week, and then I can't tell you how many months, like, we pre-ordered 5 packages off Amazon of things that we don't really send the things now, but like we did send like a couple of the books and stuff. And like they sat in my garage and they collected dust, and I was like, cool. Cool. Glad you called me to be a dust collector. Matthew was a tax collector. I'm a dust collector. And so we, like, I don't know, we felt like, is this really it? Is this what he's called us to do? And then I don't know what happened. I can't pinpoint the exact date, but it just like took off.
Yeah.
And it just like hasn't stopped since then.
Yeah. And it's changed like so many people's lives.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we talked to, if you look at our map, like, people all over the country. Yeah. I mean, Canada. Like, what the crap?
Canada's insane.
I know! Canada. Like, I'm like, I got a phone call from Canada the other day. I was like, who's calling me? Is this spam?
I would be like,
excuse me?
I'd be like, I don't know what to say.
I
know. Like, Canada.
I know. I'm like, I'm a fraud. How did you get my number? But yeah, it's just God opening doors and us just walking through them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Girl, just be obedient. That's all I can say. And I'll sit back and cheer you on.
Well, I'll be cheering you on too.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions about Arrows in the Sky, comment them down below. Go follow Arrows in the Sky on what? Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and you can visit us at arrowsinthesky.com. So, yeah, go follow them, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.